It's March 26, 2019. This is a regular meeting of the Dickinson City Council. We're going to call this meeting to order at 7:03. Roll call.
Mayor Julie Masters.
Here.
Councilmember Charles Suderman. Here. Councilmember Bruce Henderson. Councilmember Walter Wilson. Here. Councilmember Wally Dietz. Here. Councilmember Louis Decker. Here. Councilmember William King. Here. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Councilman Henderson wanted everyone to know that he was called to an emergency at work and had to go down to Corpus Christi, is why he is not at this meeting. You'll please rise for the invocation by Councilman King, followed by the pledge to both flags by Councilman Decker.
Let us pray. Gracious Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the love, labor, and leadership on this council. Pray your passion and your presence continuously upon our city as we recover, as we continue to experience the resiliency that you only can provide. Help us tonight to make the decisions that are pleasing to you, do what is best for the citizens of our city. Bless our men and women of armed services, those who are in war countries. We pray your covering over their families here in these United States of America. Thank you for this state and this nation. For your blessings in Jesus' name. Amen.
Please follow the pledge to both flags. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Councilman. We have a proclamation this evening. It is National Crime Victims' Rights Week. Dickinson and Galveston County, right? Whereas Americans are the victims of millions of crimes each year, adversely affecting individuals, families, and communities. And whereas years of investment in crime victims' rights and services have developed a system of victim response that can help victims recover from crime, yet still too many victims are without meaningful access to rights and services. And whereas reaching and serving all victims of crime is essential to supporting thriving communities, because those who receive holistic services and support are more likely to remain invested in their communities. And many victims face barriers such as isolation, distrust of authorities, language limitations, lack of transportation, or cultural barriers that keep them from accessing the services and criminal justice systems that can help them recover from crime. And whereas we must make a dedicated effort to expand the circle of those prepared to respond to victims and link them to resources that can help them recover. We must engage a broader array of healthcare providers, community leaders, faith organizations, educators, and businesses that can provide new links between victims and services that will improve their safety, healing, and access to justice. And whereas the National Crime Victims' Rights Week provides an opportunity to recommit to ensuring that all victims of crime are afforded their rights and receive a trauma-informed response. And whereas the Galveston County District Attorney's Office and the City of Dickinson's Crime Victims Liaison is dedicated to strengthening survivors of aftermath of crime, building resilience in our communities, and working for justice for all victims and survivors. Now, therefore, I, Julie Masters, Mayor of the City of Dickinson and the great state of Texas, in recognition of the importance of supporting victims and survivors of crime, do hereby proclaim the week of beginning April 7, 2019, as Crime Victims' Rights Week in the city. And in so doing, reaffirm the City of Dickinson's commitment to respecting and enforcing victims' rights and addressing their needs throughout the year, and express the city's gratitude and appreciation for those who are committed to improving our response to all victims of crime, so that they may find relevant assistance, support, justice, and peace. In witness whereof, I appear unto set my hand and cause the seal of Dickinson, Texas, to be affixed this 26th day of March 2019. Thank you, guys.
Can we get another one with the other members?
Come on in.
Yeah, come on in.
Come on, there's a photo shoot. $2.59.
And look at the t-shirts. Melvin,
Come on.
this is good, Tony.
That's fine. I'll
Come
look
on
this.
over here.
T-shirts of those cranberry.
I got the shot.
Thank you, guys.
Wrong profession too.
Yes.
The 7th of April will be the kickoff for National Crime Victims Week in Texas City. My wife and I have sponsored for the last 20-something years a candlelight vigil in front of the Texas City Police Department. I would like to invite all of you out there at 7 p.m. We will be
6 p.m.
6 p.m. Yeah, we changed the time. But we will be honoring the different police forces and first responders at that candlelight vigil. Also, the Santa Fe group that was shooting at the school. I am a victim. My mother was murdered about 32 years ago, 31 years ago, a long time ago. Anyway, to make a long story short, my mother loved roses, so we give families roses every year in memory of not only my mother, but their loved one, and they can find one they want to. This year we'll be giving a rose to 2 families and the school at Dickinson for them to put in their yards.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
We would love to see y'all there.
Thank you for your service. Sorry for your loss.
What was the date again?
April 7th
April
at
7th.
6 p.m. in
Okay.
front of the Texas City Police Department.
Thank you, sir. Thank you
Thank
guys
you.
for coming. Okay, and I think the chief has some things he wants to present.
Mayor, Council, thank you. Weekend before last, we had our police annual banquet, and at that banquet, we recognized the officers that responded to the Santa Fe school shooting on May the 18th, 2018. They went into the school while the shots were still being fired. What we didn't do is recognize the civilians, and the officers get their medals for their uniforms, put on their uniforms, and we don't have medals for the civilians. So what I'm going to do is read off a combination letter of appreciation. These 2 individuals spent countless day after day after day after the shooting. They spent night after night, 7 days a week for several weeks after the shooting. And to me, these are the people I refer to as unsung heroes. First person is Nina Burtwright. Nina, if you come up here. I would like to extend a personal thanks and appreciation to Nina Burtwright, who leads the criminal liaison, victims liaison office of the Dickinson Police Department. In the immediate aftermath of the Santa Fe High School shooting, Nina played an instrumental role in assisting the victims and community restoring their quality of life. Nina spent unselfish hours listening to the trauma that individuals suffered and went above and beyond the call of duty to educate those in need of services and to bring better awareness to the cause. She demonstrates a caring heart of compassion for people of all walks of life and operates in a spirit of excellence. The knowledge and the experience that Nina brings to the organization is an asset, and her commitment to others make a phenomenal difference in providing a voice to victims of crimes. But most of all, you for your kindness, your care, your love, and for being an inspiration to our community. On behalf of the men and women of the Dickinson Police Department, it gives me great pleasure to present this letter of appreciation to Nina Burtright. Sincerely, Chief Ron Morales.
Turn it around. There you go. There you go. I can't read, I'm just using the picture. Got it.
You never read that.
Thank you, Nina. We're lucky to have you here in the city of Dickinson.
This next person, Chaplain King, our councilman, and also our police chaplain, I know you're wounded. So
You want to take a step and you make it up? Come on, help me.
I'm off the knee scooter, so I need that.
be careful.
You too.
As we know, the duty of a chaplain is never confined to just a church. They go wherever the work is needed. The day of May the 18th, 2018, in the aftermath of the heart-rending Santa Fe school shooting, the labor of Chaplain King was called into action. Without hesitation or excuse, he answered the call of duty and immediately laid aside his own work to become a servant of the law enforcement officers, the parents, the students, and the staff of Santa Fe High School. In spite of his daily responsibilities as a husband, a father, a pastor, a city councilman, a counselor, a teacher, I could go on and on and on, Chaplain King volunteered countless hours of his personal time for several weeks to assist in the recovery efforts of those victimized by this horrendous event. The sacrifice, the dedication, and commitment demonstrated by Chaplain King are immeasurable. But even more treasured is the wisdom, the knowledge, and the understanding that he brings to those transition through times of uncertainty and lack of clarity. I think you'll agree with me, Chaplain King is a jewel to the law enforcement family of Galveston County, to the citizens of the city of Dickinson. He has been a true example of peace in the middle of a storm. It is with an abundance of respect and honor that the men and women of the Dickinson Police Department present William H. King III with this letter of appreciation and commendation for his humble service to our community. Sincerely, Chief of Police Ron Morales.
Councilman King, thank you so much for your service to the city of Dickinson and to all those victims that desperately need your help. We're going to go to council comments, and I'll just start real quick. Councilman Deitch reminded me, thought I should mention this. I hate to put a carrot out there and then we not get it, but we're applying for the Safe Routes to School grant to try and get sidewalks for the kids coming from McAdams to 517, and then submitting a second project to fix those sidewalks on 517 where the bricks are coming up, the pavers, and where the storm sewers are, 4 inches higher than the rest of the sidewalk. They're tripping hazards, we're aware of it, but it's well beyond our funding capacity to repair those. So we are seeking that grant from TxDOT. Also, Trash Bash is this Saturday, March 30th. We encourage everyone to come and help pick up trash. We're going to have several boats, so if you're an adult, we can put you on a boat and drop you off somewhere along the bayou to pick up trash and bring you back to the boat ramp. Yes, and we did. I thought you were going to want to do that. Bruce. Anyway, the railroad crossings, the city administrator got confirmation today from Union Pacific that they will be starting on that the first part of April. Hallelujah.
It's concrete.
Yeah, well, yeah, 2019. I do want to say, since the tragedy in Santa Fe was brought up, at the Galveston County Mayors and Councils Association, the mayor of Santa Fe requested that we all not go to Santa Fe during this anniversary. They're going to probably be inundated with a bunch of media. There's people still suffering and will for years and years to come over there. And they just asked that they'd just like to keep it in-house in the city of Santa Fe for those families, and if we wanted to commemorate that tragedy, to do that in our own city. So I thank you for that. We'll start with Councilman Suderman, who wasn't supposed to be here. He just had shoulder surgery. Just had shoulder surgery.
Yeah, but they're quick up there. Appreciate it, ma'am, and welcome to everybody that's here tonight. It's always good to see familiar faces as well as new ones. About the only thing I have is fish fry. We still got 3 more, I think.
I think so.
So if you want some good fish, Friday nights during Lent, 5 to 7:30. I think the last 2 weeks we've started serving about 20 minutes to 5. Last week we served, my recollection is correct, 487 people. So if you're going to come, I suggest you come early because parking is rather limited. We haven't started parking on 1266 yet, but that's probably the next place. But just keep in mind, if you can't find a parking place, there's an industrial park next to the KC Hall. You can come into there and park, and it's just 5 feet over to the KC Hall. So love to see all of you there. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Councilman Wilson.
Well, I'm glad to see you here too, Charlie. Many surgeries as you had, though, maybe I'll just have to put a zipper in that. Make things a lot faster.
Yep.
I mean, it's easy to poke fun at, but I know it's not. Anyway, on a better note, you don't have to wade water or anything to get over there from that other parking lot, do you?
No.
Okay, well, that's good. I know they have a retention pond there.
If you take the wrong turn, you may be in a retention pond full of water. But
okay. But I'm gonna tell you right now, trying to get there to the fish fry early doesn't work. No matter how early you think you are, there's already half the parking lot full of. So. Anyway, but on another note, on a very, very good note, I think, 10 o'clock Thursday morning, they're actually supposed to pour the foundation or the slab for the animal shelter that we've been waiting on to be poured since October, November, I don't know, somewhere in there, which will be a plus, trust me, to get this thing underway and moved along. Like I said, I'm looking forward. I just hate seeing that done. So there are other projects being gone. Good luck on Saturday with your trash bash. Looks like the Lord has smiled upon you, Mayor. Earlier the rain was supposed to be all day long. Now it looks like it's going to start in the evening and go maybe into Sunday. So, but I don't know if I trust some of your people to take me and dump me off somewhere down the bayou and then maybe come back and get me. I'm not too sure about that idea. By the way, Reverend King,
Yes, sir.
if I was you, I'd have a talk with the chief. You know, here he was giving you an award, and this is probably the most dressed down I've seen you. You know, since the flood. Okay? So, you know, bad coordination is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, this week is our street preaching week, and so when you're street preaching, you're not out there in a suit and tie, and so.
Yeah, but if you hadn't gotten a heads up, you're telling me you wouldn't have been here in a suit and tie? Come on.
I probably would have made arrangements, you know.
Yeah, you didn't know.
Okay.
Councilman Deeds.
Okay, thanks, Mayor. I'd like to welcome everyone also. I just had a couple of things. I wanted to remind everyone that tomorrow here at City Hall, we're having a town hall meeting, public meeting on the public market. It's a very important meeting. If you want to come and get updated about input, that's the place to be. It's 6:30 tomorrow. The other thing I wanted to let council know is that Zach Meadows, the Community Development Director, did put on the planning and zoning agenda last week the effort to review the comprehensive plan with a focus on bio on their agenda. I did attend that meeting. They were very receptive to that. So they plan to get started. I don't know if they're going to have a workshop or what, but their focus is going to be to look at current zoning on the bio, are there some opportunities to change the zoning for future development that makes more sense. And then, along with the Chamber of Commerce and the EDC, to come up with a vision for the bio, which would, some people are calling it Destination Dickinson, to really look at what we can do to encourage businesses that the community can agree to that would generate sales tax. So that's our goal. I have talked to a preliminary conversation with House of Dunn at EDC, and I look forward to their next meeting to kind of fill them in on the effort. And I have talked to the Chamber President, Don King, as well, and they're excited about it. So trying to put something together that would be like a 5-year plan. One of the problems that we've had in the past with developers coming in is we didn't really have an overall plan to present to them. This is Dickinson's vision. It's already been vetted by the public. They're in agreement with this. I think it's a good idea. And here's what we have available for you. We've been doing it on kind of a piecemeal basis, which can be a challenge sometimes. So we're trying to get ahead of the game here and get something reduced to writing and drawings on what our vision really is. And when I say our vision, I'm talking about the whole community. So that's all I have there.
Thank you. I want to, and somebody correct me if I say his name wrong, congratulate Jaylon Williams. It's in the paper. He got county's citizen or player of the year or something. Pretty big write-up. I think he played football and basketball. Anyway, proud of that young man.
Going A&M.
Got a good future ahead of him, I think. Great in academics, just good kid all around. Councilman Decker?
Yes, ma'am. Well, election time's here and signs are placed in illegal spots. Just coming down here, there's probably 5 or 6. I don't even know, on the school board, for the school board. And there's a couple where the old county maintenance building is. I didn't stop, and I'm not going to look at it while I'm driving with the sun on my face, but I've talked to our city manager. He's going to look into it, but as usual, they shouldn't be placing them there. I don't know what the school has told the people at file, but they'll be picked up by somebody. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman King?
Sure, Mayor, Council, City Administrator, City Attorney, Secretarial, City Staff, to all our citizens who are present, appreciate your presence here on today. So I want to say thank you to Mayor Julie Masters and the Keep Dickinson Beautiful program. The Magnolia Cemetery cleanup that took place this past Saturday morning was a tremendous success, and all of the attendees put forth a valiant effort to not only accomplish the manicuring, the mowing of the lawns of the cemetery, but the trimming of the hedges, pruning of the trees, and then all of the limbs and trees that have fallen over the winter, and cut those up with a chainsaw, place them on a trailer, and haul them off to the mulching yard. It was a tremendous success. I did get stuck, Mayor.
Did you?
In a brand new GMC truck, but I was hauling quite a bit of lumber, quite a bit of trees, and I can't think of the gentleman's name. But I've seen him here in council several times. He came by in a red pickup truck, and he has red hair. and he came out with his battery-operated weed eater, and he weed eated. Zach? Zach.
Tall guy, yeah.
And he did some weed eating, and I was sitting near a headstone thinking, how am I going to get out of this cemetery? And he drove down the street, backed up. He says, are you all right? I said, yeah, I'm fine. I said, I just got to get my truck and trailer with all these limbs off here before that place closes, and I'll be in trouble then with all this lumber on the back of my trailer. He says, well, I have a 4x4, so immediately my mind went to a truck. And he said, let me call my wife. He called his wife. The wife came out in a station wagon. And I said, well, when is the 4x4 going to show up? He said, that's the 4x4. And lo and behold, we strapped up to my truck, and that station wagon, Dodge, of all vehicles, pulled me out of the cemetery. And so I had to do some repenting because the Dodge was the last thing I thought could pull a GMC out of a cemetery. So that's going to be a great story in my book, that's for sure. But it was a great success. I want to thank the Mount Carmel Baptist Church as well as the Great Old Baptist Church for coming out in that effort. The cemetery looks beautiful. The families are going to be visiting the graves of their loved ones this coming Easter. The Magnolia Cemetery is an abandoned cemetery. There aren't any caretakers, and so we've been trying to provide some leadership to keep it manicured, and I appreciate what Keep Dickinson Beautiful did and all the great work you're doing. This coming Saturday is the Trash Bash, and we picked a project. The code enforcement officer called a while back about some help she needed with one of the citizens, elderly, couldn't get a lot of debris, equipment off of his yard, and so we're going to be cleaning 2601 Avenue H, Johnny Prater's yard on Saturday morning at 8 o'clock, and if any of you want to come by, I've called the coach for the football team, players, get them out there, and some other men in the community want to come out and help out. That the mayor said someone will come by from Dickinson Beautiful just to get us registered as doing a project in Dickinson to clean this man's yard so he can move forward with his life. And so that's going to be on Saturday morning at Johnny Prater's house, 2016 Avenue H, Johnny Prater's yard. I attended the Dickinson Police Officers Banquet just about a week ago at the Knights of Columbus. It was a wonderful banquet. Also went to the fish fry, and that was a great experience as well. And certainly congratulate Nina and all the officers who received awards. I think Lewis Decker and Charles Suderman received quite a few awards for the hours that they provide towards citizens on patrol and the volunteerism that they provide in the city of Dickinson. Also went to HGAC, and I'll talk about that during the public comments on that, during the comments on the agenda.
Is that it? Thank you so much. Item 6 is reports, and item 8 is update on the public works projects. Ron Sullivan.
Mayor, members of the council, I'm pleased to tell you that our street sweeper has been quite productive of late. We finished with Dietz and with Mariners Morning. They now moved into the northeast quadrant of the city, and we're going to work our way east to west and try to get caught up on our street sweeping. The county is scheduled to begin the milling of Casa Grande next week. Our crews are going to do an overlay on that street a week or two after that. In order to get ready for this, we have a rather large, a moderately large base repair that we're in the process of taking care of on 46th Street, and so we're going to get our lay-down machine out there, and even though it's fairly small, at least we can kind of get it going and make sure that everything is working like it needs to be before we tackle Casa Grande. Of course, this weekend we're going to be helping out with the trash bash, and the thing I'm most excited about is that we're finally getting to the position where we're going to be able to interview some candidates for the labor position in the Public Works Department. We're hoping to hire 4 or 5 individuals. We've got more available in the budget, but right now I'm more inclined to try to tackle that smaller number as far as begin their training and getting them ready, because most of these people don't have a lot of public works experience. Do you have any questions?
Councilman Deeds?
On the desilting, I know there's a crew that should be just about finished up with Past. Are they moving to Kellner next, or, you know?
Yes,
Okay.
I have to check with my consultant.
And I understand that, I've been by a couple of times to Dickinson. They've made quite a bit of progress over there. They're going to continue to work that area.
Yes, sir. You know, of course, we have our culvert crew coming behind them and clearing the culverts as we go. Hopefully that we'll get that project wrapped up here in the near future, because I think we were hoping to have them finished up by about now. So they're a little behind.
Greg wants to say a few words.
To answer your question, we did 39th Street, 40th, and part of Baker over on the east side. We then went back and are doing Kellner and Pabst, which we will finish those up. The majority of the work in the Nicholstone is actually the de-silt stuff for FEMA, so we haven't really gotten deep into that. But after we finish Kellner and Pabst, the plan is to come back and start addressing those issues.
So you'll have two crews.
I assume they're going to have two crews. That's what they've had. Yes.
Okay. Since you're up here, has there been any progress on the maintenance manual that you guys are putting together? Street maintenance?
In terms of drainage, we haven't done any work on the
Okay.
that portion.
I think that was part of the contract. I was just wondering if there had been any progress on it.
If you're referring to the maintenance of the drain and the ditches,
Yeah.
we have some work on that, yes, but not versus the paving.
Yeah.
As far as the scope of the work is concerned, do you feel like your teams or crews are moving as scheduled progress? Are you making progress?
Yeah, the crews are actually, they're a contractor. We're working for the city. They have had two crews, basically, the majority of the time over on the west side, and then we kind of split them because we did part of the excavation of the silt in the big channel that goes south of 517. That's out on the west side. We're going to be working with the Corps of Engineers to basically come up with a standard operating procedure for the city so that we can actually de-silt more of those ditches down into what is the jurisdictional area for the Corps. I had a tentative meeting with the Corps a couple of weeks ago and talked about that. We're going to follow up with them. So I don't know if I answered your question.
On your timeline, you feel like you're moving on schedule, or you feel like
it's
greater than?
Yeah, we looked at initially a 90-day window, and we have, we'll achieve the 90-day window about mid-April sometime. And I think we're pretty much on line with achieving that. So we need to get on the de-silt of the FEMA ditches is the main effort needs to be done.
Councilman Zimmerman?
Do we have any plans for these tributaries, Geisler and Benson? And I know we can only go so far up them with water machinery, but what are we going to do on the other ends of them?
There are certain areas where we have easements that the contractor is going to be going in to clearing and grubbing of those areas. We will not be doing any desilting of those main tributaries to, Dickinson and Magnolia and those type of things. We're working with Ron's group to get access to like the church and apartments and even on school property so that the contractor can get in and clear and grub those ditches. So the longer term, the areas where we can get in and do the work and have access and got legal authority to be on that property, we're not on private property, we're doing that work.
Okay. Well, I live on Jamestown, and behind mine and two neighbors, we've got trees in there that probably got a 24-inch diameter trunk that weren't there prior to Harvey and appeared, and of course with the tide rise and falling, they appear and disappear. But they're gonna give us a problem, and, I have,
You're talking trees that are felling?
well,
We have a contract?
they come from upstream, and it's my understanding that they'll fall, or kids will cut them down to play on them, have a way across the water, and then they float on down. But this clump is right in the middle of the bayou, and if we have another issue, you know, it's just going to be a snag problem there. But I'd be glad to get with y'all and talk about access across our property, because I go almost right down to them.
Okay, we'll take a look at that. I know there was another contractor that was doing a debris removal. I don't know the status of that, but we can work with, if we can,
Yeah, I think
this
that's,
contractor and maybe get that snags out of the,
I don't think that's part of this contract. Yeah, we'll have to do a separate one, and,
it's already complete.
yeah. So we'd have to look
But
for
we're
someone.
gonna have to figure out a way for.
Get Crowder going back in there. Yeah. Any other questions for these two guys? Thank you guys so much. Item B is an update of the activities of the Houston-Galveston Area Council. Councilman King.
Thank you, Mayor. The Houston-Galveston Area Council met on March 19th, 10 a.m. at 3555 Timmons Lane, second floor conference room B. And we had a very good meeting as it pertains to HTC is concerned. We talked about the rivers and lakes, bays, bayous, and trash bash, and how long trash bash has taken place, and how many tons of trash are removed from these areas of the state of Texas. And the benefit that's done, 51 miles of shoreline that we're talking about how was accomplished through the trash bash. Also, the month of April is Fair Housing Month. Generally, we do a Fair Housing Conference in February. So they also provided information concerning fair housing, how important it is to maintain fair housing. And also we had some boards and appointments for the HGAC. What was significant, I thought would be important to the city is House Bill 2808, where cities would be able to use websites, newspapers, greater transparency of bills, newsletters, to publish city council meetings in an effort to save thousands of dollars for small cities having to make those type of publications based upon the law. So House Bill 2808 was something to watch. Also, they talked about the audit that will be taking place for cities that are receiving monies from the GLO, which is pretty typical for governments. They all want to make sure they're using the money based upon its plan. Also, they talked about the evacuation plan that municipalities are required to have as a result of receiving these monies as well. And then they talked about Senate Bill number 2 on debris removal and how it is something that cities will benefit from having a plan in place for is removing debris with some contractor coming in after a storm and getting that taken care of as far as reimbursements was concerned. And then I thought it was pretty significant for the city that the GLO is supposed to have another round of funding taking place in May or June. GLO is supposed to receive additional monies from HUD to provide for Hurricane Harvey relief. One thing that was discouraging is that GLO is also contemplating not taking the plan that we provided to them through HGAC as far as the method of distribution on the second round of money.
Really?
Especially where the city of Dickinson is number 1 to receive those funds. And so several of the county judges wanted to have a meeting with Commissioner Bush of GLO to make sure he understands how important that is for our region to have an opportunity to redistribute those funds to cities that need it the most. Mr. Chuck Wimple at this point didn't want to move forward with that meeting because it was a preliminary dialogue that was discussed in a meeting, but nothing was final. But if he felt there was a need for the HGC COG to have a meeting with GLO Commissioner Bush, then he will certainly make notification.
So do you think he's getting pressure from other cities?
I think he's getting.
Because we are first in line and other people want to put their hand up?
Absolutely, absolutely. And
Do we need to kind of let them know what our need still is?
oh, absolutely, and that's my purpose at the table, representing small home rule cities, to make sure they understand, especially the city of Dickinson, as I've been a voice for the city of Dickinson by way of the council permission to HGC, to make sure our needs stay at the forefront, what our work requires, how bad and desperate it is that we get our city back up and running for its businesses concerned, streets, drainage, and those areas of service to our citizens, home repair, replaced, and then the reimbursements. And so as those plans are going forward, dialogue sidebar after the meeting was over with, Chuck didn't feel like it was something that was going to actually take place. It was just something someone brought up in the meeting.
Okay. Councilman Deeds?
You brought up a good point about having a debris removal contract in place.
We have that.
That was my question.
We always have. We've had that for years on the park.
Okay.
We have
Yeah.
it.
We did that
It's
after
in our emergency management plan.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure it was enforced. Hurricane season's be here before you know it.
Absolutely.
You brought up one of the bills. There's another bill I responded to, or I sent an email to our senator and representative, and I can't remember the Senate bill number, the House bill is by Phelan. He keeps doing several that are anti-city, and it's regarding franchise fees. And we've already reduced our franchise fees in the budget this year by $150,000, and the utility companies, cable, all those folks are again going back to the legislature to try and say this is a tax, and city's unfairly taxing us, and actually it's more of a rental use of public right-of-way. So feel free to send Senator Taylor and Representative Bonin your thoughts on opposing these bills, because again, we get a little over $1 million, well, it's reduced now to 900 and something thousand from these franchise fees, which is a huge part of our budget, and for these things to be heavily diminished or go away would be devastating to our city.
Yes,
Well,
Mayor.
you also have to remember that the companies that are complaining about the franchise fee is passed on to consumers anyway. You look at your bill, and they have franchise fees.
Well, and they're
On there, so
touting, I'm sure, that, oh, we're going to save the consumer money. Well, I doubt our consumers will ever see that money.
Well, that's what I'm saying, so,
Also, talking about recovery, gosh, it's going way too long here, I'm sorry, but I had the pleasure of going to one of the houses getting rehabbed. There was a group of United Methodist ladies there, led by Maxine Jones, one of our very own and beloved citizens here. And they had worked with a group. They got a group from Iowa State College down here, about 35 of those kids. And Mrs. Garza's house now has sheetrock and has been textured. And so I think another group of professionals are going to come in and try to get that house back where this little lady can get back to her home. So,
Mayor, one additional thing, as we come to the close of the Senate session, a lot of bills, it's crunch time now. So that's why it's so important to stay cognizant and conscious of those bills that are on the table that has the potential of being passed. And so I agree with you. I also appreciate World Renew for coming down from up north and working with Galveston County Long-Term Recovery. I've heard they've already done 9 houses in our area. I am sorry, but I failed to mention John Dogan. He was also present at the Magnolia Cemetery, and I appreciate the information he provided to those who are following him on Facebook for that as well.
yeah, and Claire as well. Appreciate it.
Claire, that's right.
Yeah.
Picking up limbs.
Okay. Sorry for everybody that took so long, but anyway, City Administrator's Report, item C.
So speaking last, pretty much everything's been covered. So the only thing I will add is related to the desilting. I was able to convince FEMA to take 3 problematic sites out of the project, put them in a separate project so the other ones were released and now are at the CRC getting scoped. And once I get that, then hopefully those will be obligated, and then we'll deal with the 3 problematic sites as a separate item. So that was a positive movement with my general frustration of the PA program in FEMA. With that, any questions?
Any questions on the city manager's report that was in your packet?
Just a comment.
Councilman Deeds?
You can get somebody to proofread that comment.
Yeah.
Noted. Okay, item 7 is public comments. At this time, any person with city-related business may speak to the council. In compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, the council may not deliberate. We ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. First on the list is Carol Dean. Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Decker. You've already addressed the issue that I was going to bring to everyone's attention about the campaign signs and access signs that are about to drive me crazy. I spend, on a nice day, I have no problem picking up access signs and eliminating them and taking them over to Public Works or whatever. But the campaign signs, there are signs up by some of our current council members who are running for re-election that are in the wrong locations as well. And I noticed today a whole bunch of new ones for the school district, and I didn't have time to stop and see whether the disclaimers are on the signs. The information needs to get out there to these folks. I don't think it's necessarily your responsibility, but these people, we need to start enforcing what the laws of the state of Texas say very clearly, and maybe, I don't know, it will start, making a change. Keep Dickinson beautiful, make Dickinson beautiful. It doesn't matter as long as we've got those dadgum signs that are totally and completely illegal. So I think we need to, I don't know, consider that part of beautifying Dickinson or whatever. Some of us don't mind doing that particular outlet or venue of it, but also letting these candidates know and making sure that they come and remove their signs. I understand a lot of the candidates use volunteers to place the signs, but nevertheless, the volunteers need to be informed. Otherwise, the candidates are going to look up and go, where are my signs? Anyway, thank you, Mr. Decker. Thank you, Carol. And they do get a handout in their packet that tells them about right-of-way. We typically haven't enforced that because it's TxDOT right-of-way, and if the signs are removed, it's usually TxDOT that does that. We don't want to put our staff in a position to police political candidates. It's and most of the time, like you said, it's volunteers, and they don't know better. But it's a practice that's it's happened since we became a city. And fortunately, they're temporary, so that's a good thing. Who's calling me? Somebody down?
No, they said it's very temporary.
Okay, yeah.
Well, Mayor, may I make a comment to that last statement you made about temporary?
Yeah.
Because there are signs that are left from the last campaigns.
Yeah, well, I think there's a thing of if it's there a week or two or something like that, then they're good. You can pull them up. Yeah, pull them up. Throw them away. Yeah. We actually did that after the November election.
Yeah, but there's still some around that from the last series of elections.
Yeah, well, those can come up, I suppose, unless they're on private property.
I will say this about bandit signs. What I've done on bandit signs now is I call the number. And the last one I talked to, We Buy Houses, I actually got a hold of the guy that pays for someone to go out and put those signs up. And I informed that if I saw any more of the signs, I was going to file on them in city court. And I haven't seen any out since then. It's been a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if I did any good or not, but I would encourage everyone to call the number that's on the sign and let them know what you think about it.
Thank you. Second signed up is Sean Skipworth.
My name is Sean Skipworth, and I live at 1061 Mystic Cliff. A few weeks ago, I had the opportunity to address the Dickinson Police Officers Association meeting and to discuss challenges that they're facing. While I've been out campaigning for office, many citizens have discussed issues they have with the city, but one thing that really never comes up is the police, and citizens have been pretty consistent in praising the performance of the police here in Dickinson. I was glad that dispatcher pay was addressed last Monday by City Council. I was also glad to see some discussion of the need to address compensation for the police moving forward. Our police officers made it clear to me 2 weeks ago that we face some significant challenges with base salary compensation, dependent health care benefits totaling thousands of dollars a month, and some officer shortages that are causing some to work grueling work schedules. The officers expressed concern to me that turnover rates are somewhere, as they stated, in the 80% range. What impressed me most about the quality of the officers, though, was that their concern about the threat to a retention rate wasn't just about the threat that this might pose to the community, but that it threatened the close-knit family relationship that they feel in the department. I thought that was a nice thing that they mentioned. I know that everybody on City Council wants to pay our officers what they're worth, and that nobody, intended for things to reach this point that we're at now. Moving forward, I want to be a voice on City Council that seeks to ensure we look at these issues proactively. We need to ensure we have a compensation plan in place that works for our city's finances and retains employees, particularly in critical areas such as the police department. Our resources are indeed limited, and I understand these are hard decisions, but that's why everybody steps up to the plate of public service to make those kind of decisions. And I stand ready to work with all of you and the community to work to pay our officers what we know that they're all worth. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. Item 8 is consent agenda. The following items are considered routine by the City Council and be enacted by one motion. There will not be a separate discussion on these items unless the council member requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and discussed after.
Second.
By Councilman Wilson to approve, second by Councilman Dietz. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Item 9, consideration and possible action concerning an ordinance of the City of Dickinson, Texas, supplementing the order of special election as issued by ordinance number 927-2019 to provide for the additional polling locations and times for such election, providing for the incorporation of preamble and an effective date.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Wilson to approve, second by Councilman King. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 10, consideration and possible action concerning a resolution of the City Council of the City of Dickinson, Texas, awarding competitive sealed bid number 1901 for construction of paving improvements to Lucas Construction Company, approving the execution of an agreement with Lucas Construction Company, providing for the incorporation of preamble, authorizing execution of the agreement by the mayor, and providing an effective date.
Move to approve.
Motion by Councilman Dietz to approve, second by Councilman King. Discussion. Questions? Comments? Okay, Councilman
Who is
Becker.
going to oversee or follow up on what they do? A specific person?
That will be a combination of myself and Travis.
In concert with the city administrator, Ron, I've got an individual who works with our firm and provides construction management and oversight.
Good. Shouldn't have any problem.
Shouldn't have any problem.
Any other questions?
Yeah, we have a price on that. Do we have a price for process for that, for the oversight? No, I haven't provided a solid proposal for it. It's been hourly. Okay.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 11, consideration and possible action concerning a resolution of the City Council of the City of Dickinson, Texas, authorizing the city administrator to issue task work authorization number 1 for the construction of infrastructure improvements on Frostwood Circle, Long Shadow Drive, Sherwood Oak Street, and in the Biocrest subdivision, providing for the incorporation of preamble and providing an effective date.
Move to approve.
Motion by Councilman Dietz to approve, second by Councilman Decker. Discussion?
The one addition, I put on your table, in working with Bill Zeller and IDS, we wanted to get all the quantities sort of captured, so I put on sort of a 1A that shows some additions and deletions on the items that we had put out in the packet. So I'd like both the item that was in the packet and the item that was at the dais to be included as the total authorization.
Can we do that?
You can amend the motion to include the
No,
handout.
since it wasn't part of the packet.
Yes.
Okay.
Was it your motion?
Yeah.
You want to amend it? Chris, you want to explain this to him since it's difficult to,
Sure. So,
short period of time.
and Travis, you can pop up the same. So there were a couple of bid items, like Frostwood example. The original bid did not have removing the existing inlet. So we talked to the contractor. So if you see item 31, and we have two, they're on Frostwood, there are two existing inlets that need to be removed to replace them with the type 4C inlets that are proposed in the improvement. So that pay item is now there, and there was some trench excavation protection, and then one of the things is we did get a very competitive bid on pouring concrete, but there is a little bit additional work in putting driveway approaches in, and so item 32 kind of reflects that. So these aren't, so these were just items that through all the coordination of all four of us, Ron, myself, Greg, and Travis, we just want to make sure that we're capturing 100% of the activity that's going to be occurring in these projects. And so this was, Travis and I sat down for about an hour today and just made sure that we captured everything. So Travis want to add to it. And obviously the driveway cost in Long Shadow was sort of it is the big number there. So.
And these were all negotiated with the contractor, so they're aware of it. It wasn't.
Well, are all driveways in Long Shadow concrete?
Yes, sir.
All of them, everyone out there?
They're either grass or concrete.
Well, if they're grass, we wouldn't be putting back concrete.
They're driving on them now.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, our normal policy was if you had concrete, we put back concrete. If you had asphalt, we put back asphalt.
That's right.
So now what you're saying is we're gonna pick up the cost of giving you concrete, right?
But
We provided for those quantities to be able to move forward in that direction. When we've done street reconstruction in the past, I've done them just exactly as you've indicated, and I have done them all concrete. So
No, I disagree with you because we have not done them all concrete because we've had citizens coming in here that had asphalt and want to know why they got asphalt back because that's what they had. You know? Now, maybe there was some of those ones that we did that were under CDGB money.
they were CDBG.
Okay, because we even had a couple of those. I remember Tropical Gardens, a man come in and they complained because he had limestone, and that's what we put back. So we have not done that as a standard for everybody. Because trust me, I remember distinctly. So my question is okay, is this total price raising, going up by $70,000 more?
yeah, so the net effect, yes, the net effect will be set, so it's not going up more. We, as of Friday, when packet went out, we did not capture all of the activity, so that's my fault. So what we did between Friday and today is I captured the rest of those costs, and those are articulated in this 1A. So
Well, my question is...
So like on Frostwood, it's going from 19 to 21. On Bayou Crest subdivision, it's increasing 7,800. And then on Sherwood Oaks, there's two inlets there that need to be removed. So that's the 2,000. So,
But on this sheet that you gave us, whatever it's called, whatever, it shows the $70,670.50.
right, correct.
So is that not added now to the total that you have?
It is. So
That's what I just asked you, is it,
Yeah, the answer was yes. So if you look at the bottom page, the prior TW1 of 671,212 added to add 70,670.
Right.
And so it's basically 27% of the contract you just approved.
But it's $740,000 something.
Correct.
Okay. That was my question.
Yes.
okay, so you have the motion, you're going to amend the motion?
Yeah, I'll amend the motion to include the worksheet that was handed out to council prior to the meeting, and in the amount of an additional $70,670.50 for all three projects, 2, 3, 4, 6.
It's 2, 3, 4, and 6.
I'll amend my motion.
2, 3, 4, 6.
Okay. The motion's been amended, and the second has been amended by Councilman Decker.
Yeah, I have one question.
Go ahead.
Chris and I, we talked some time ago on Long Shadow. Is there an easement easements so the water, where that curve is, naturally it drains toward the bottom?
I'm not aware of one.
I
At
don't
this time, I
know.
know we've continued to investigate it. I think the city staff has gone.
Naturally goes that way. It flows that way. You have it?
Patrick, you want to say something?
There's no easement.
No easement. Okay.
Okay, so.
Go ahead, Craig, please.
Come on up to
There
the
is-
microphone, please.
There is no easement at this point in time, but we are going to be working with the city to identify easements that need
Correct.
to be captured, even to address what you had brought up earlier, sir. But that is one area, and we do want to upsize it. Right now, if we put the pipe in, it's going to drain on private property, so we have to get an easement all the way to the pipe. And we're going to upsize that pipe. I think it's a 24, we're going to go to probably a 36, once we get the easement in and get it draining properly.
Yeah.
The improvements that we're doing now are in preparation for us being able to put that bigger pipe in and drain
Correct.
long shaft.
Okay, so the drainage work we're doing, or desilting, whatever term you want to use, without that easement, without that larger size pipe, it's going to cause additional water on somebody's property because it's not going to handle the additional water that'll be coming out of that improved drainage in that ditch, correct?
I don't know that I would say that. We are upsizing, we're not upsizing all of the culverts on Long Shaft. The majority of the culverts on the south, I'll say the two legs of the U, we're leaving them at 18-inch. We are upsizing about a third of the culverts on each side on the northern part of the U to 24-inch in preparation of getting that easement so that we can get drainage. So that part will be getting more water toward the area that drains. So, yes.
Councilman, generally speaking, if you upsize or increase the size of the ditch and do not increase the size of the outfall, what it generally means is you have more storage in the ditch.
Yeah, you have a metering device, which is then defeative to what you're trying to improve the amount of water going through it.
And just, so Hewlett's out, and that's what, well, I think,
We have to buy an easement.
well, here's the overall statement there. Yeah, here's the other overall statement. Number one, we have a lot of places inside the city where we are currently conveying stormwater where we don't have easements. That's part of what Hewlett's Dollars is doing, is identifying those. So it is my intent to go, once those are identified, then we will then start a conversation on whether it's a compensated easement or just a gifted easement. Those will be ongoing conversations, and when council needs to take action, they will. But we are, currently water is flowing through there with no easement.
Any other questions? We have the amended motion and the second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Item 12, discussion and direction concerning the Hurricane Harvey Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Application Development and Proposed Projects. Patrick?
In the three of you, others can stand up behind me now. So we can get a full Monty going here.
Maybe some of them will work on it.
Good evening, council. I'm Patrick Wiltshire with Management. You should have a fairly detailed memo in your packet. Hopefully you've had a chance to read through that. And hopefully you can appreciate that I held back on the detail in that memo. What I tried to do was to lay in front of you the history of how we got to this point, from the storm, which you're very clearly aware of, to the allocations to the state, and then those that were then made to the city. And then the actions that the city has taken from that point to hire your disaster recovery team, which include public management as an administrative arm, Hewlett's Dollars and IDS Engineering as the engineering arms. Since September 19th, we've met bi-weekly to try to address as best we could all of the short-term and the long-term recovery needs the city was facing. And you've probably seen a lot of those meeting minutes. There are several. I don't know if you've seen all of them, you've got them if you wanted to. The fact of the matter is that we've essentially been tasked with this specific item of identifying your initial recovery efforts associated to community development block grant disaster recovery funding that you've been allocated. And you have two separate allocations. And one of them is a local infrastructure allocation, which is $8.9 million, which is heavily detailed within this packet. And then the other one is a buyout and acquisition, which is not detailed in this packet. We want to have a little bit more time to address that particular application and those needs. While I'll field questions on that, if you have them, right now what I want to do is kind of present the long-term projects that we've identified at this point in time to submit. If you recall, it goes into in the memo, GLO released the application that is going to be submitted on behalf of the city here, but they released it on October 10th, the deadline of January 31st. It was an impossible deadline. Nobody could make that. Everybody across the state requested an extension, as did the city of Dickinson. That extension is April 30th of this year. And so from those early meetings in September through some of the new developments that we've seen, clearly as the funding has evolved and the requirements that we've got to meet to request these funds, we've done everything that we could. One of those things here recently was to, we put a posting in the paper and we put postings on community buildings and at City Hall requesting for public comment. I'm notating in this memo that there were no comments received for this allocation for these funds. We continued our development of projects since September to get to here today. And what you see are three projects that we intend on submitting and certainly want input. This isn't the last that you'll see of me or the team, certainly on this application and this allocation, because we want to go from here and then we'll come back another time for an application resolution. In your packet, you'll see, excuse me, the first project that we'll go over is the tributary to Gun Bayou widening. There's a few maps that accompany that, as well as some preliminary budgets. But total budget for that project, which includes construction, administration, engineering, environmental, and that project would require acquisition of property to widen the bayou. By the way, one of the first maps you see is sort of the placement of the project throughout the entire city, so you can just visually see where they're located. But the tributary to Gun Bayou shows you the improvements along Gun Bayou, along that tributary. We've got 4 culverts that will size, and there's going to be a widening and some excavation and some clearing and grubbing along the tributary. The map that follows that particular map shows more of an area that we're capturing, that we must capture to identify beneficiaries of this particular project. And so, we felt confident that this particular census tract and all these block groups would benefit greatly from this project. And I'm going to pause at these projects just to sort of receive comment from y'all as we...
Is this a pause?
Yes, it is.
Good. I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, so on Exhibit 1.
Yep.
The blue is the watershed affected by the improvement. Is that correct? Affected floodplain? Or is that the affected floodplain?
The blue is the preliminary floodway.
Floodway.
Yes. That's what the floodway is going to be whenever those maps become effective. That's what the blue is.
Correct. Okay, so in the...
I'm sorry. The blue is the floodway, that red dotted line is the flood. Right. So the blue is the floodplain, apologies, the red dotted line is the floodway.
Okay. And the pink is the channel improvement.
Channel improvement.
That will handle that floodplain?
Yes.
along with those culverts. And as you see, there's a series of culverts that are being upsized as it gets to the widening.
So how far into League City does that go?
What's that? This particular project?
The effective floodplain?
This is in the city's jurisdiction.
Well, I'm looking at the blue.
Well, I mean, yeah, the watershed is in that effect.
I mean, we're talking about watershed, right? Into the floodplain.
Right.
So that floodplain knows no boundaries.
Right.
So the improvements that we're paying for here will handle that entire floodplain that you have in blue? And it runs off the map, so I don't know how far up it goes.
Well, it's gonna handle the residential section right south where those improvements are being impacted. I mean, that water is flooding this residential area that you're seeing south of those culverts and those crossings. And so what the goal here is to take that water that is coming from League City and elsewhere along that tributary and get it out.
That's what I thought, but I mean, this is on our dime, right?
Right, but it's also impacting your residents right there too.
No, I understand it needs to be done, but what I'm saying is it's coming out of our 9 million?
Your 8.9, yes.
8.9 million that we were allotted on round one.
Right.
Is there any partnership with League City on this project since it's going to help them?
I mean, we haven't looked at the upstream impact of this project to League City, so no.
The only reason I brought it up is because you're showing it on the map.
Well, right, we're showing the floodplain, right. We're showing the floodplain and floodway that is impacted.
We've had several conversations with GLO, and you can't do a multi-jurisdictional request, but League City and the City of Dickinson is definitely working where we can together. So, but you can only have one applicant. And that's part of the legislation that is kind of getting lays to where we can go through a resource to where you can do a multi-jurisdictional request for federal dollars, but that won't happen anytime soon.
Like if we had a Galveston County Flood Control District. That's a whole nother topic.
Yeah.
So your new culvert, as we look at the same diagram, I guess page 97, the tributary to Gun Bayou, as I noticed you have the new culverts under the roadway. Do you know the distance between those new additional culverts?
Between each culvert? Yes. No, I don't. I mean, we can get that to you, but it's not detailed enough.
4 blocks.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's however. There's a distance we can get to.
Is one of these 25th Street, that's going to be done by the county on a bond issue. And that bridge that Chris saw, that's going to be removed,
So
I would think.
we are working with the county right now with participation with ULSL or NIDS to kind of look at what a project on California would look like. That probably will come for you guys in the next few months. And the Gun Bayou crossing at 29th in California is a part of that discussion. Don't know exactly where that's going to head. A lot of that's going to be driven by council's palatability for investment in the project, because the bond was $2.1 million, but the county has a policy that they'll match dollar for dollar up to $1 million, so it could be a $4.1 million project. So those are going to be future conversations that we're going to have once we sort of flush out the total scope of California. Projects that we will focus on in round 2. Part of round 2's focus is we really need to get some good understanding of what their prioritization is going to be. So until we get some of that, we don't want to spend a lot of effort in developing projects that don't fit their criteria. So, and to Councilman King's comments earlier, with the fluidity of the funding, the redistribution conversation, we want to be mindful that we don't expend those engineering dollars and not get any benefit for those. So I'm trying to be mindful. We have very limited resources locally, and I want to make sure that when I've engaged the engineers, that their time is being used very effectively. So tomorrow's team meeting is going to basically to put the final portions related to the CDBG on the $8.9 million, go over this contract, get things moving on it, and then we'll start developing additional projects.
So let me ask this question, Patrick, with your engineering team, and I'm sorry? Right. They're the ones you guys are meeting with. So anyway, I want to stay focused on my question. Your timeline, knowing the timeline, once we do get word of round 3, I think round 3, that will be coming down. Does a team have the ability to provide additional projects that will meet the scope of the criteria that will be set forth by GLO?
Yes.
And that's all that matters. You can meet the project timeline.
So if I can elaborate just briefly on that. The answer is yes. The short answer. The long answer is that, the reality is that we don't have, as you know, a full picture of what round 3, this mitigation funding is going to be. It's a lot of money that is not fully defined, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to get all of those details worked out. However, I feel very confident in the team that we have. I feel that we work together very well. That as soon as we know the details of what this next round is going to be, that we'll hit the ground running and we'll bring something back to you. Right now, these are the projects. These are the projects for this application that we'll submit in the next 40 days or so.
And what is the timeline for approval of these 3 projects with HGO?
With GLO. So the good news that at least that we've heard is that 2 things. One, they don't have that many applications in yet, and a lot of the communities have extended their deadline to August 31st. And so, one of the questions that I asked the Deputy Director of GLO a few weeks ago was, are you going to be waiting for everybody's applications to get in before you make contract awards? And the answer was no. As soon as we get applications in and we address whatever requests for information that come out of that, then we should fight for contract development. Now, how long is that going to take? I don't know. But, we're fully committed to fight.
Good job.
That's the best answer you can give.
Good job.
Yes.
Nobody knows.
Yeah. They don't even know.
We didn't do this 10 years ago. The council members weren't on the council, but it's the same process that, although I do believe 10 years ago during Ike, they actually did wait until most all of the requests came in before they started, awarding stuff.
Well, that's true, and they've done that up until recently with
Right, I'm just
disasters.
saying they changed the game this time, so.
It is.
Well, again, and they've said that, so we need to see that. There's a few elements.
Yes.
There's a few elements here.
I'm sure Patrick knows, changing the game, saying mildly. I think with Ike, they may have had a book that was probably 75 pages. Now with Harvard, they have a book that's probably 700 pages, that gives directives. So, change.
Any other questions for Patrick?
Yeah, what's your definition of short-term and long-term?
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah.
My definition of short-term are those improvements that need to occur immediately after a storm. And the long-term improvements are those that will have the most lasting impact to your residents.
That's, okay, so short-term is
Yeah, I mean, within,
2 years?
that, yeah, I mean, I put a cap at 2, short term.
And long term would be.
For those that you're going to
I
want.
gets 10.
Well, there are some factors that you had under control in terms of that of excise superfund.
All right.
Any other questions? Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you very much.
John.
Item 13, consideration of possible action concerning appointments, reappointments to boards and commissions. Item A, the Dickinson Economic Development Corporation, and my recommendation to the open spot on the EDC is Jesse Brantley. I think he sent everyone an email that he could not make tonight's meeting because it was my fault. I didn't let him know until Friday that this was going to be on the agenda.
Make a motion that we appoint Jesse.
Second.
Yes.
That we appoint Jesse Brantley to EDC.
We have a motion by Councilman Deeds to appoint Jesse Brantley, second by Councilman King. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, council. Item 14, executive session. The city council will now hold a closed executive meeting pursuant to the provision of Chapter 5.1 of the Government Code, Vernon Texas Codes annotated in accordance with the authority contained in Section 551.071. Consultation with attorney regarding pending litigation and matters in which the duty of the city attorney requires to be discussed in closed meeting. And item B, Section 551.074, personnel matter, discussion to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of the city administrator. We will convene an executive session at 8:32. Ready, Alan? We're going to reconvene in regular session at 8:55. We have no items to discuss on item 16 from executive session. Motion by Councilmember Wilson, second to adjourn by Councilman Deeds. All in favor say aye. Opposed, the motion carries. The time is 8:56.